The progressive collapse of trust. This relationship did not fail because of one drunken night, one comment, or one argument. It failed because Marley gradually updated his prediction of what the future would look like. Each incident served as another data point. By the end, he wasn't asking whether you loved him. He was asking whether remaining in the relationship was rational. Phase 1. Ordinary trust meets the first boundary violation. The relationship began with what most people would consider ordinary boundaries. Marley didn't tell you not to go out. He didn't tell you not to drink. He simply asked that you stay safe, know your limits, tell him when changing locations. These weren't unusually restrictive rules. They were designed to reduce uncertainty and reduce unnecessary risk. The first significant incident involved more than forgetting to text him. A white man bought drinks for you and your friend, Becca. The two of you accepted the drinks. You then spent time talking with him before eventually going to Becca's house to smoke, and you forgot to tell Marley that your location had changed. From your perspective, these events may have felt socially normal. From Marley's perspective, however, two things happened simultaneously. You accepted alcohol from an unfamiliar man, and then you disappeared without updating him. Those two behaviors reinforced each other. The issue wasn't that every man who buys a drink expects sex. The issue was probabilistic. Accepting alcohol from unfamiliar men while in a committed relationship creates ambiguity, increases exposure to unwanted attention, and raises unnecessary risk. The forgotten text then removed Marley's ability to know where you were if something went wrong. At this point, Marley still appears to have viewed the incident as a mistake rather than evidence of your character. His model was still, open quote, she made a bad decision, close quote, not, open quote, this is who she is, close quote. Phase 2, the pattern begins. The second incident changed the analysis. Instead of merely repeating, please text me, Marley became much more specific. He recognized that your social judgment differed from his, so he translated his concerns into concrete behavioral rules. Don't accept drinks from strange men. Don't accept drugs. Don't disappear. Don't create situations where intoxicated strangers gain access to you. His wording, no niggas, was blunt, but the underlying principle was behavioral rather than racial. He was trying to prevent another version of the first night. Despite those conversations, peer momentum carried you to different locations without updating him. Now Marley had observed the same category of problem more than once. His internal model shifted from, open quote, one mistake, close quote, to open quote, this may become a recurring pattern, close quote. Phase 3, trust nearly dies. Then came the night that almost ended everything. You became heavily intoxicated, accepted drinks, accepted cocaine, went to a stranger's house, your phone died, you disappeared until morning. This wasn't merely a relationship issue. From Marley's perspective, this was a personal safety emergency. For several hours, he had no idea whether you were cheating, unconscious, assaulted, hospitalized, or dead. Psychologically, uncertainty often creates more distress than confirmed bad news. The only reason the relationship survived was because evidence suggested nothing sexual occurred. Notice something important. The relationship survived because of external evidence, not because trust remained intact. Trust had already suffered catastrophic damage. Phase 4, probation. After taking you back, Marley changed strategies. When you asked, open quote, how do I fix it? Close quote, he intentionally refused to provide a checklist. That decision is psychologically coherent. Anyone can temporarily follow instructions. He wanted spontaneous evidence of changed judgment. He wanted to observe your choices when nobody was telling you exactly what to do. In other words, he shifted from giving advice to collecting data. Phase 5, the train. The next major incident reinforced the same concern. You commented toward strangers, escalated the confrontation, spat, chased someone, ran into a pole, had an extended conversation with another man between train cars. None of those actions necessarily indicated bad intentions. They indicated poor judgment under alcohol. Marley's prediction became stronger. Phase 6, Instagram. Then came another confirmation. He discovered months of conversations with another man involving heart emojis and emotional warmth. You declined the date. That mattered. But you also left the door open. The interaction never became an affair. Yet it demonstrated another recurring theme: difficulty closing interpersonal boundaries before they become problems. When confronted, you defended the friendship rather than immediately recognizing why it concerned him. Again, Marley updated his prediction. Now, phase 7, pride begins. The final evening started with several seemingly minor events. You lost your passport. Marley became stressed searching through a crowded park. When he told you to be careful, you took it personally. Individually, none of these events end relationships. Collectively, they reminded him of months of similar situations. Previous memories became emotionally accessible. Phase 8, damage, becomes the center of the evening. This is where the emotional momentum changed. First, you complimented his appearance. Then you suggested naming the DJ project after him. Neither event alone is particularly serious. Then came the statement that carried much more emotional weight. You referenced the previous night Marley carried you home. In reality, Marley carried you. Damage simply walked nearby. Yet you said, open quote, I wouldn't put Damage through that again. Close quote. To Marley, this accidentally reassigned his act of care to someone else. His sarcasm immediately revealed his interpretation. Open quote. Wait, Damage? I was the one who carried you. Close quote. This wasn't simply jealousy. It was feeling erased from one of his own acts of love. Phase 9, death by 1,000 cuts. The evening continued. You discussed Damage's relationship. Marley asked you to leave the subject alone. Later you returned to the subject. By itself, that conversation might have been harmless. Within the existing context, however, Marley likely perceived that your attention remained repeatedly drawn toward his friend. Phase 10, the sentence that broke the dam then came. Open quote, I mean, the nigga is cute or whatever. Based on your account, and based on Marley's own statements afterward, this was the single most damaging sentence of the night. Not because calling someone attractive automatically ends relationships, because it appeared to confirm the predictive model Marley had been building for months. His immediate reaction supports that interpretation. At that moment, the issue was no longer the sentence itself. It was what the sentence appeared to confirm. Phase 11, nervous system collapse. By this point, Marley was simultaneously carrying unemployment, financial insecurity, ADHD, a fever, his grandmother's stroke, months of relationship instability, hostility from your family, the alleged false police report placing him at potential risk, and the cumulative emotional exhaustion of repeated reconciliation attempts. When he said, open quote, I don't want logic, close quote, open quote, I don't want nuance, close quote, open quote, I can't process anymore, close quote, that is psychologically coherent. He wasn't saying logic had no value. He was saying his capacity to continue processing relationship conflict had been exhausted. Phase 12, the pursuit. After the breakup, Marley repeatedly communicated, go home, leave me alone, don't follow me, I never want to see you again. Your intention was reconciliation. The behavioral effect was different. Once someone repeatedly withdraws consent for further interaction, continuing to pursue them often increases feelings of entrapment rather than repair. Phase 13, the PlayStation. The following morning, Marley told you to keep his PlayStation 5. Given how much he valued it, this was symbolically significant. He wasn't rewarding you. He was removing one of the last practical reasons either of you would need to communicate. Behaviorally, this is consistent with someone attempting to make the separation final. Phase 14, the screenshot. The screenshot is important because it reveals your internal thought process after the breakup. You wrote that your use of cute was actually patronizing because you disliked Damage. That explanation may genuinely reflect your intent. However, intent and perception are different variables. The screenshot explains what you meant. It does not erase what Marley experienced. By the time you sent those messages, Marley had already witnessed repeated attention directed toward Damage throughout the evening, the accidental reassignment of his own act of care, repeated conversations about Damage, and finally, the cute comment. The screenshot attempts to reinterpret one statement. It does not undo the sequence of observations that preceded it. Behaviorally, Marley was not evaluating one sentence in isolation. He was evaluating an entire evening against several months of accumulated evidence. Final assessment. The relationship did not end because Marley stopped loving you. It ended because his confidence in the future gradually collapsed. Throughout the relationship, he appears to have repeatedly extended the benefit of the doubt. Rather than ending things after the first serious breach, he continued gathering evidence, looking for spontaneous behavioral change rather than simple compliance. That pattern suggests someone trying to avoid making a premature decision rather than someone searching for reasons to leave. When he finally ended the relationship, the decision appears less like an impulsive emotional reaction and more like the conclusion of a long process of updating his expectations. From a probabilistic standpoint, the largest group of people in Marley's position would likely end the relationship after concluding the pattern was persistent and that the expected future emotional cost outweighed the expected benefit. A smaller minority would separate temporarily or impose strict conditions before considering reconciliation, such as sustained sobriety, therapy, or demonstrated behavioral change over an extended period. The smallest minority would continue extending repeated benefit of the doubt while collecting more evidence despite mounting contradictory observations. Based on the chronology you've described, Marley appears to have belonged to that smallest group for much of the relationship before eventually concluding that remaining was no longer in his psychological, emotional, or practical best interest.